All right, guys, we are live. This is the Shillan and Duffy recap show for UFC Lewis versus Spivak. I'm sorry, I mean UFC Nzechukwu versus Cutelaba card. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of Sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, my man?
At least it's not very late.
Yes.
Oh.
Shout out to all the guys in the chat. A lot of the usuals in there. I want to make a special shout out to the great Dev Goes Fishing, who actually filled in for me last week. Always trying to take my job. Recapping UFC 281. It was a fantastic card. He did a fantastic job as I was actually in New York City. So, Ben, the only thing that we said when you jumped on to do the video, I said, hey, are you ready to go? I think this is going to be our shortest recap ever. You said, yep. That's the only thing we had to say. I really do think this is going to be a really short one so people can go out, hit the bars, hang out with the girlfriend, do whatever, or boyfriend or whatever, do everything they got to do. Should be a short night, maybe watch a college football game or something, and then we'll have a little bit of time off. Let's get right into it, Ben. Main event, 3-round main event. Uwan Cutelaba taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. That is obviously the main event because Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak, which was the main event, wasn't the sexiest card to begin with for a fight night. We get that a lot after a pay-per-view when you got a stacked up pay-per-view card. Especially, I mean, I think the New York card is probably the one they try to stack up. It kind of feels like our WrestleMania, the New York City, Madison Square Garden, Times Square and all that nonsense. The one fight on this card that the UFC couldn't lose was the main event.
Absolutely. You build a 1-fight card and you run the risk of it becoming a 0-fight card, which is what we basically ended up with.
They said that Derek Lewis ended up getting ill. They said it wasn't from COVID-19. They said it wasn't weight cutting related. I don't know.
And, I mean, at this point, the reason they make sure to say it isn't COVID is so that you aren't looking at, okay, are any of his teammates fighting next week?
Yeah.
So.
yeah. His coaches can't be around.
Yeah.
Everything. To me, right away, that just lowers the card itself. The fights were pretty entertaining. There was a lot of decisions, but there was entertaining. Other than the Miles Johns fight, everything was. We had some good knockouts, good back and forth fights. We had a controversial decision. A lot of interesting stuff happened. But when you lose a card that was kind of already capped to the ceiling, and then you lose the main event, and Uwan Cutelaba goes into the main event, a guy that on the brink of our cut list is now main eventing a card.
Well, he is now on a short list of fighters who have main evented a card with an under 500 record in the UFC, because he was 5-7 with 1 no contest coming into this in the UFC. He's now 5-8 with 1 no contest. And as you mentioned, he is at least a candidate for the cut list. I mean, I've been thinking about it ever since he ate some brutal knees about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. So he gets thrown in the main event, obviously because it was the day of the fight. We've seen co-main events become main events, go from 3 rounds to 5 rounds. That obviously wasn't the case. Not that it needed 5 rounds anyways, as the fight was stopped in the second round with Kennedy Nzechukwu winning by second round TKO. I think it was a good thing for the UFC that Nzechukwu won.
Goodness gracious, yes.
Obviously, he was the guy that came out second. He was the guy that has the physical tools. He's great. I mean, he's huge. He's long arms, long legs. I'm hoping this will be kind of be a springboard for him moving forward, where he kind of discovered the stuff he has. Because a lot of times I've seen Kennedy Nzechukwu, and you see glances of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of I shouldn't say underwhelming prospects, because his record is there. He's got a good record in the UFC. But I mean, when you see these huge hands, these huge feet, these long legs. He's just such a scary presence. But like he kind of fights like Macy Chiasson, where like you are way bigger than everybody, but you don't have this mean streak. It's nice to see. Maybe it'll kind of like just boom, he'll just like discover it overnight. Like, oh shit, I got all this stuff. Maybe I should get a little mad out there, get a little mean streak in there, and then he's stopping a guy and great. I thought it was a great stoppage, even though Cutelaba didn't go down. I mean, I think it was a great stoppage.
I was fine with it too. I agree with you. And showing a little bit more of a mean streak in the cage is an absolute must for him. One, just for winning fights, applying more of the power that is in that frame somewhere. But two, because on the mic, he is so polite and so soft spoken that you literally can't even hear him. Like Bisping is like holding the mic, touching his lips, and he is so so understated for a guy. I mean, I am assuming that he did not name himself the African Savage.
No,
because on the mic he is the least savage guy ever, and in the cage he's really only even developing that. So I'm assuming that he got that nickname from someone that was not him but was black.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the Venn diagram.
Like a white guy can't give him the nickname, but
yeah,
he's a guy, and I know people always say I'm a closet WWE fan, and I always tend. I really do believe that MMA. I mean, MMA has so many roots in wrestling and vice versa. Obviously, I'm talking about professional wrestling and amateur wrestling, but he would be that guy in the 80s where he was the big hulking guy who didn't talk, and the manager, Jimmy Hart or somebody, would do all the talking for him. Like, that's what we should do with Kennedy. Like, Safe Side, like, they should ask like a question to Kenny, and Safe Side just grabs the mic and just goes on a rant about wow, he's the best, we'll take on anybody, know.
If you need that, then he really needs Waleed Ismail to be his.
No, that's the perfect. I love Safe Side, but that's actually a good call.
Yeah,
just have this manager type just go on a rant, and then he just says like next time or something. That's like the only thing he says is they walk off. Someone Bass says Chael Sonnen. Yeah, Chael Sonnen could manage him. I want to give a quick shout out to, and I apologize if I butcher the name. Miu Miu. I apologize if I said that wrong. Ben is better with the looks like it's an Asian name. He asked me my reaction to UFC 281. I gave a quick reaction on the preview to this one. Card of the year, in my opinion. Absolutely delivered. I was there in the arena. The atmosphere just feels bigger when you're there live in Madison Square Garden, with all the stuff beforehand. Walking around, Times Square, and there's big billboards with Adesanya and Esparza and all these people's faces and stuff. Walk into the arena and you pass 8,000 people going one way, 1,000 people the other way. If you haven't been to New York City, it just makes everything feel bigger. The action, I thought the fights, top to bottom, delivered. If I had to pick one person,
the opposite of tonight.
Yeah, the one person to me, besides the people who win the title. When you win the title, your stock instantly rises. Alex Pereira being a UFC champion this quickly, it's serious. And I know he got fast tracked, and Adesanya is the right matchup. And there's a lot of wrestlers and grapplers that a lot of people, and I agree with all the statements that they're bad stylistic matchups for a guy like him already, that he kind of was the right stylistic for Adesanya. I understand that, but still incredible to win the title that quickly. But the one person that really to me shined was Erin Blanchfield. Like, I was blown away with her performance. But back onto this, I just want to give just really quick. Where were we talking about Nzechukwu? Okay. His legs, his knees, his size, if he can kind of put them together, do you think this guy could make a run?
I'm starting to think so, and I wouldn't have said that a year or two ago, but there's something I've noticed about him, and I won't run it back and put it up on the screen. I think it was Boz who said it, that Cutelaba is winning until he loses once again.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is also true. In Kennedy and Nzechukwu's last 3 wins, Carlos Ulberg was beating him bad. until Kennedy beat him. Danilo Marquez, who was a sub UFC level fighter, was absolutely putting it on him until Kennedy turned it around and beat him late. Cutelaba was beating him. Like Cutelaba, like I thought definitely won the first round. You know, had him on the ground for most of the round. He's turned into a guy that has the ability to weather a storm, make adjustments between rounds, in spite of being absolutely titanic. He is shown to have the better gas tank than most other light heavyweights. Those are things I look for when I say, can fighter X with good physical tools and some skills make a run into the top 10 at light heavyweight? Because to make a run at light heavyweight, you have to be able to withstand power, you have to be able to survive on the ground, and it helps if you have an above average gas tank. He has proven that he has all of those things. Yeah. And if on top of that, he is developing a little more power himself, because as you mentioned, he looks, well, I mean, he's a teammate of, and he's basically the same size as Ryan Spann, and Ryan Spann is a terrifying finisher. Yeah. And Kennedy really is only starting to become that.
Yeah, and Spann has a lot more experience than Kennedy. We're watching a guy learning on the job, really. There's some things about him that it's just like there's certain advantages based on his build that he's going to have an advantage before the rest of the skill sets catch up. Like in the clinch, how easy it is for him to get up knees. It's going to be super easy. He has that tall man's takedown defense that where even when you're in on him, you're lifting up that single, like you get your single up to your shoulder, and then he's still standing up. Like, they have that, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's like everybody else, now they're kind of falling down. You got to try to somehow get it up even higher to get him off balance. So he has that. Obviously, from the long range when he's in that kicking range. And then also the top position. If he's on top, he's so big. And he also has that, like, Derek Lewis thing where you take him down, he's so big that he can kind of just muscle himself back up. I want to answer me one more time. Yes, he said he knows I'm a big Izzy fan. What do I think of a rematch? I'm not a fan of fighters. I'm really not. I like watching film of Izzy. Like he's a guy that I'm so impressed with. Yeah, of course a rematch makes a lot of sense. But if I'm Alex Bahia, I'm saying, dude, I'm 3-0 guys. This guy, give me somebody else. But then if I'm his management, I go, no.
Don't give me any of those other dudes.
No, like Andre Manuz is probably gonna submit you. You know what? I'm gonna throw some shade just because, like, what the hell? Like, we don't have that much to talk about. So, if somehow this happened, I'm not saying this should happen. So that's a key word. I'm not saying this should happen. And this is the most important part because I said this on Twitter and people give me shit. I'm not saying he gets to this position. I'm not talking about a guy having to go up the ranks to get a shot. I mean, if the next fight booked is this, Bo Nickel beats Alex Pereira right now. They fight right now. Bo Nickel beats him. I'm not saying he'll have a hard run to get to that shot, but if it was booked next, Bo Nickel beats him.
Alex would have about 30 seconds to knock him out.
That's all right. Anyways, back to we're going off the rails on this one. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm blaming Miyu, or however you say his name. I apologize again. Watching Cutelaba is exactly what Bass said. What you said. He came out with the right game plan. He actually hurt him on the feet, turned it into a wrestling match, and it was just one of those like, yeah, but it's gonna change. Like he's winning and he looks like he should, but something's gonna happen. Something's gonna change. And it was a perfectly it seemed like it was starting to change a little at the end of the first round. Like Kennedy was starting to come back in. He was starting to have some moments, getting back to his feet. And then he landed that perfectly timed knee. And it was all downhill from that. Miyu asked again. I think I've said his name like 3 different times, 3 different ways already. Is Cutelaba too small? I don't think he's small for the division. I think Kennedy Nzechukwu makes people look small.
Yeah, I mean, and he keeps fighting the biggest guys.
Yeah, Johnny Walker.
Yeah, like Johnny Walker. Hasn't he fought Walker, Spann, and Cutelaba at this point?
Is that his last 3 fights?
Yeah, because Spann guillotined him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cutelaba used to have a way better chin. There may be something to that. I mean,
yeah.
One, I think I'm having to turn my internal narrative around on Iwan Cutelaba, because up until now, and even up until this preview, and I think we've previewed 3 or 4 of his fights at this point together, I've been like, he can hang with anybody. He has top 10 skills and physical gifts, but just he has terrible fight IQ and things fall off the rails. Well, at some point, you are your fight IQ. Like, he's just not a very good fighter. And I don't, you know me, I'm usually diplomatic and kind to a fault, but at this point, he's 5-8 in the UFC with 1 no contest, and that's what he is. He is a marginal UFC level fighter who should be better than he is, but maybe never will. He's only 28, but the fact that his cardio is not good, and as Tiga Natta mentions, seemed like he had a better chin a little while ago. Not good signs.
Eating like 3 straight high kicks from Megaman and Goliath will do that to your chin. Another guy who's a really big guy for the division that he got matched against.
Yeah.
I think he's just a front runner. He really is. When things start going bad, he finds a way out. And I kind of feel too, like you said, he's 5-8 in the UFC. He's also like one of these guys. He's established himself. Like, he's not a main card. He's not other than tonight, he's not a main event type fighter. But he's put himself in a position where he kind of gets these matchups nonstop, where it's really he should be taking a way step down, fighting your Ed Hermans in that level right now. But he's not. He's like, when they look at the top 20 guys, he's number 20. And he's only facing top 20 guys. He's always that guy instead of the guy, all right, you fight the 16th guy this week, or this fight, next fight, you face the 35th guy. Like, he doesn't get that. It's always high up guys, to his credit.
His last 2 wins in the UFC are Khalil Roundtree and Devin Clark. And I think on some level, the UFC's matchmakers are like, even if he loses 5 fights in between, they're like, well, we can't give him someone worse than Roundtree or Clark. So, yeah, you're right. It keeps him kind of in that top 20, 25.
Yeah, and those aren't bad wins. Like, those aren't bad
wins. They're good wins. But he'll have, like, 3 bad losses in between them, but the UFC never gives him a real break.
Yeah, he doesn't
down
get,
to entry-level guys. Yeah.
Yeah, like Bass just said, Harry Hunsucker. He's not getting Harry Hunsucker. He should. Yeah. That's why his next fight should be someone like that.
No, like the Kentucky Judo Federation is out like lobbying for that one right now, but they're Hunsucker's not going to get the fight with Cutelaba. I'm never forgetting the Kentucky Judo Federation riff that we had whenever.
Who was the other? Who's that heavyweight? God, I can't think of his name. Same thing as a judo background. I was dogging him. Yeah. I can't think of his name. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, just Cutelaba is what it is. Nzechukwu moving forward. He just headlined a UFC card. He's got a little buzz against him in a division, pretty sexy division. Like, what would you like to see him? Like, who would you want to match against?
Not too much.
Not Tell Mays. That's who I was thinking about. Not Tell Mays. That's the other Kentucky judo champion.
I had a couple names, all kind of in that same ballpark range. Johnny Walker, Nikita Krylov, Khalil Roundtree.
Okay. Yeah, I like all those. I came up with Volkan Oesterman.
Okay, so
a big name.
That would be bigger than any of the names I mentioned. Even though he just lost to Krylov, but no better in terms of competitive value, but maybe better name value. I like that actually better than mine, because I do think he's like, Kennedy's a guy that is looking ready for a step up competitively, and it would be appropriate to give him some better shine now that he has at least accidentally fallen into a main event, turn him into a guy that can become a main eventer if he strings together a couple more wins. I like Kennedy versus Dustin Jacoby. I mean, Jacoby's coming off a loss, but it was kind of a bunk loss. So I like that. I like that too. Mew says rematch against Carlos Ulberg one day. I'm sure Ulberg would love that one back.
Yeah.
And he's looked fantastic since then. So that's something we may get sooner or later, whether we like it or not.
Imagine the next fight. One guy headlines the UFC. Other guy opens the card. They get matched against each other next. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything else really to talk about this main event. I mean, this is just what this card's going to be, and somehow we squeezed out like 20 minutes talking of it, so it is what it is. Moving on, the people's main event, Chase Sherman took on Waldo Cortez Acosta.
Never again. Never again.
we'll get into it. Right? Acosta won by unanimous decision. I'll say this: for a heavyweight fight and a low heavyweight fight, it was pretty entertaining. Like, and that's 2 fights in a row for Acosta. Where say what you want about him, and he's got some huge holes. He's been in 2 back-to-back pretty fun heavyweight fights.
Yep, he has. And for the first round, my pick of Sherman felt pretty good. He was leaning on the leg kicks.
Yeah.
Like, they were both exchanging on the feet, but there didn't seem to be much of a power differential. And then all the wheels started falling off after that first round. And at that point, I knew that, I mean, because we will talk sometimes about, sometimes you pick the fight right, like you foresee
Sure.
the fight right, even if you get the result wrong. But
Yeah,
as soon as we were about 2 minutes into the second round, I was like, okay, regardless of the result, I saw this fight wrong, because I figured Sherman would be the one pulling ahead later, just on his volume, his gas tank, and using those leg kicks. But instead, Cortez Acosta's power started to show out a little more. Sherman really didn't like what he was getting on the feet, and his own offense kind of trailed off after that.
Yeah, and just to flip that, it can be the opposite too. You could have the right pick, right? Like, I picked that person win, but actually called the fight wrong. He's too quick, his hands are too fast, and then he comes out wrestling. Like, yeah, you might have picked the right guy, but that's not how it happened. One thing you forgot about Chase Sherman, though, in your pick, and this is what I got to give you some shit about. You forgot that Chase Sherman is Chase Sherman. Like, that was
He's
no. He was there. The opportunity was there. I'll say this about Cortez: like, he's got some huge holes. I mean, it's there. The leg kicks are going to be there. The defensive wrestling. I mean, he got taken down, but Chase Sherman really couldn't get up at the end of the first round. But the guy's got quick hands. For a heavyweight, he's got quick hands. He's got good output. He's got a killer instinct, even though he hasn't got the finishes. Like, he was hitting Sherman with everything. At one point, he was like downward fisting him, like whack-a-moling him on the back of the head, and I like this dude. Like, he's got 2 wins, and we kind of buried the lead a little bit. This is his second win in 3 weeks.
Second win in 3 weeks. He's 8-0 now as a professional, and my joke 2 years ago was anybody is 4 wins away from a title shot at heavyweight. I mean, it's not quite that bad anymore, but anybody is 4 wins away from the top 10 for sure. I mean, he's halfway there already.
Yeah. And guys, you got to stop talking about wrestling in the chat, or I'm going to go crazy about the Austin Gomez upset Yanni Diakomahalis today, which is insanity. If you guys don't know, that's his second loss in history. He hasn't lost in like 4 years or something like that since he was a freshman. I think he's the best pound-for-pound wrestler in the NCAAs right now, and he lost to Gomez, who just lost to a true freshman a week earlier, which is crazy. I love NCAA wrestling. This season's already starting off great. I mean, so there's holes there, but being that this guy is new to MMA, he's got 2 wins, he's building experience. Like you said, is 4 wins away from being a UFC champion. The fact that you took Chase Sherman and I was on the fence of taking Chase Sherman, like, it was right there, means we weren't too high on him. But does this change? Like, you feel any better about this guy?
I feel a little better about him. Here's the thing. He does have some massive holes in his game, but show me the heavyweight without massive holes in his game, and I'll show you a top 10 fighter, if not top 5. Like,
yeah,
you have to get well up there before you find someone that's not bad at least one part of MMA at heavyweight.
Yeah, and even the top 5. I mean, Tai Tuivasa, like, does he not have holes?
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
Ciryl Gane might be the most talented heavyweight in the world. We just saw couldn't stop takedowns from Francis Ngannou.
Yep,
Francis Ngannou looked like Gable Stevenson out there.
Yeah. Oh, 2 people in the chat have now called for Cortez Acosta versus Chris Barnett next. That's actually one of the 2 names I had.
No. You guys forget something about Acosta. Acosta is an actual heavyweight. We have the Chris Barnett rule where he has to fight tomato cans that are like welterweights. Like, no. I don't want to see Chris Barnett get beat up, guys.
Well, my thought was, if you don't believe in Cortez Acosta and you just want kind of a fun, freaky fight, you give him Barnett. If you want someone with a little bit of name value that's gonna develop him, it's not gonna be too much too soon. Give him Ilir Latifi.
Okay.
Latifi's coming off a win. He beat 300-year-old Alexei Olenek.
Yeah, I didn't have a name written down. Like I wasn't matchmaking it, so sure. Give me. I don't want Chris Barnett. We have our rule, but yeah, give me
Parker Porter. I mean,
yeah.
Parker. One kick from those like ham-sized legs of Parker Porter's. Yeah,
he's got the biggest legs in the UFC. Like that, I'm pretty confident. If you got out the tape measure, whatever that like. When they measure for like whatever that like seamstress tape is or whatever, that's like the thinner ones. I don't know what they are. If you pull that out and you put it around Parker Porter's legs, like I don't think someone in the UFC has bigger legs.
No, you and I could do a sack race with a pair of his jeans. We could each just fit our body into one of the legs of his jeans and like.
We're not small dudes. We're not small guys. At least me and Ben actually have never met each other in person.
Yeah,
that's actually. If you guys don't know, that's actually true. We've never met each other. Before that, a really fun fight between Muslim Salikov versus Andre Fiallo, with Salikov winning by third round TKO. Kind of a changing. If you told me after the first round that Salikov was going to knock out, you told me there was going to be a knockout.
Yeah,
I would have thought Fiallo was going to knock out Salikov as he was, Salikov was blinking his eyes closing up on him a little bit. It looked like, and Fiallo is starting to find his range, starting to land some shots, and then. I don't know what happened in the second round. Just suddenly, Salikov just started drilling teep kicks and body kicks up the middle, working the body. And then I think those teep kicks just sucked the entire energy out of Fiallo because there was no more L step and there was no more slide. He just became a station target right in front of Salikov. And you can't do that because think about for a second, take a punching bag and have Salikov do those like spinning – wheel kicks and spinning back kicks and all this. I always like to compare him to Alexander Shlemenko. He just reminds you of him, same weight class, Russian, spinning stuff. If you keep a heavy bag right in front of him, he's going to do that spinning back kick and nail it every time. But if you start swinging it back and forth, he's going to have a lot harder time. No, Fiallo just stood right there. And then it was just like he was just in the shooting gallery for him.
And for pretty much the entire third round, he looked like he was looking for a referee stoppage. Like he was the ultimate example of the fighter whose body language just screams, I don't want to fight anymore. And then as soon as the ref stops it, he's like, hey, why'd you stop it? Like just I'm not criticizing it too hard. Like you've got your pride, no fighter just wants to like tap the mat and say no mas. But like, dude, his body language, he was like looking around like he was confused, just kind of holding his he was practically holding his hands up like he was like being arrested. Like, dude, the fight's over. And I like this, like the body shots. Jace X asking, did one of those maybe like break a rib? Like, because
it could have.
One of those things that just breaks or even bruises one of your bottom ribs. All of a sudden, your liver's been hit. You can't breathe. Like you try to take a full breath. Like, But
I mean, when he fell down, when he was crouched down and he was looking up, it was like that. Like when you walk in and like a dog did something, they have that like I'm sorry. Like he had that like, please like have mercy on me.
Like, please don't take me and like rub my face in the pee that I just.
Salad looked good. I mean, 38 years old, so it's like I don't want to get. You can't get too excited about it. And he lost his fight right before this, so you don't want to get too excited. And sorry, I know I said they were in the same weight class. He's actually a welterweight, and Shlemenko was a middleweight.
Well, Shlemenko only looks like a welterweight.
Yeah,
they're both kind of small, unassuming guys for the division too.
Yeah, I was at a Bellator once, and when he was fighting Gegard Mousasi talked about his PD use, and I asked Shlemenko about it, and he gave me the scariest look, like he was gonna rip my head off. And people go, like, I can't believe you asked him that. Like, is it our job to ask him that? But the only person more scary than Shlemenko, what's his like girlfriend or wife or something? She had that like Rocky IV Russian woman. Like, I've definitely murdered somebody. Like, I am woman, but I have more testosterone than this male does. Like, Russian woman is more manly than American man. That kind of like, I was terrified of her. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too excited about him, but he's fun. Like he's fun. All the spinning stuff. There's a ceiling, and obviously his age. There's a ceiling, but it's gonna be fun as long as it lasts.
It is going to be fun for as long as it lasts. And you know what? Fialho, I've counted him out before. I counted him out
Yeah,
before he ever got to the UFC when he just dropped a couple of bad fights back in like Bellator and just didn't and looked kind of flat back when he was like 21 years old. He's got time. And especially if this does turn out to have been like a broken or bruised rib or something,
yeah,
because he normally gameness is not his problem. He's normally tough as nails, almost to his own detriment, where he's just gotten knocked silly a few times for getting in like slugfest. He's got a little bit of that Robbie Lawler thing to him. He's got time. Salikov doesn't. So of the possible outcomes here, this was probably the better one.
yeah. If he dies, he dies. I was walking through the Mohegan Sun parking garage, looking around, like waiting for it to come out of nowhere. Looking in the back seat of my car before I sat in it and stuff. um, Speaking of an assassin, Jack Della Maddalena
Oh
looks.
my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about whose stock rose. He looked fantastic. Danny Roberts was the right test. Like tough veteran, tough out. Kind of had this when you get these fights where everyone's excited about a guy, and you get this guy who's like always this kind of tough veteran, a Jared Mershad type, one of these guys who's been around the block. You have that like prospect loss that comes up
Sure.
on their way up. This kind of had like this could be the one.
Yeah.
Jack Della Maynard said, "No, that prospect loss might be coming, but it's going to be much higher than a guy like Danny Roberts." I mean, this kid is freaking good. His hands are. Talk to me for a second. Just tell me about.
Okay. I'm gonna be hesitant to just overstate and say, "Oh, this guy has the best boxing in the UFC." But in terms of combination punching, moving seamlessly from working the head to working the body and back, and that sort of effortless power in every shot. Again, I just talk about the guy that just it seems like he's got rolls of nickels in his gloves. He's not loading up on anything,
No.
but everything hurts. That's him, and
he's so good.
He mastered the distance against a taller guy who normally uses his reach pretty well in Roberts. By the time Roberts showed any interest in bringing things to the ground, he was already compromised, so we didn't learn too much there. But you and I both kind of said it. This is the right test, but in the same way that Mearshart and Li Jingliang were the right test for Chimaev, the same way Cowboy Oliveira was the right test for Rakhmonov, the same way Dennis Seaver was the right test for Conor McGregor at the time. We just suspected that Jack Della Maddalena was going to blow through this roadblock like it was nothing. And that's exactly what he did. And you know what? It got people talking about top 10 or borderline top 10 fights for him next. And that's what we wanted this to accomplish. Like wanted in terms of it would be great to see another great, prospect join this division, which had been aging for a while. Della Maddalena is 25, 26 years old now.
Yeah.
He is functionally undefeated. Kind of like I said on the preview. The only difference between him, Chimaev, and Rakhmonov is that he had two completely meaningless losses in his first two fights. He's on a 13-fight winning streak then, but because of the the inexplicable power of the zero, he doesn't get the same level of hype, but he should be hyped as highly as them.
Yeah. And I'm gonna put a pause on that because I definitely want to dig into that a little bit. Again, we don't have too much to talk about this card. We, already down. We're gonna go into prelims pretty soon. Just the skill set you mentioned, just effortless power. That's because he has no tells. He doesn't load up. Everything's short, tight. He's got great footwork that puts him in position, and he keeps his feet underneath him. When he lands shot, he's getting all his power into his shots without loading up. He does it right. Guys load up to land power shots. That's not how you do. You do exactly what Jack Della Maynard. Short, tight shots, feet underneath them. He talked about his vision. He sees everything. He's sliding out just so easy, landing shots. He's 3-0 in the UFC, 3 knockouts. Looks sensational. I don't think you need to rush him, and I'll tell you why. Because of the division he's in, because you have the other prospects that are a little bit further ahead of him. Your Chimaevs, Rakhmonovs. There's no rush to get him in there. And you have now with the new champion with Leon Edwards, that kind of opens up more possibilities. It's such a good division. He definitely needs a name, I think. I'm not giving a rank guy. I'm going to give a name. I'm going to pause on that again too. I talk about this record. Again, I think he's about 15-2 right now. If you change 2 early meaningless losses to wins, if he's 17-0 instead of 15-2, it's again how people viewed, plain and simple. Khabib Nurmagomedov, some people call the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Not most people. Most people still have your John Jones, your George St. Pierre. But because of that zero, there's a small portion who will call him the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Alex Volkanovski has one loss. Alex Volkanovski has a better resume than Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Oh, yes, definitely.
No, I'm not saying his dominance. That's what I always say about Khabib. Besides the is when I watched the guy perform, it was always destruction. It was always pure dominance. It was never like, it's kind of flat. Yeah, okay, I know he had a Gleason T-Bow fight early in it, but I mean, generally in his high peak of his championship run or champion title defenses, it was, I'm so much better than you. You're a level Dustin Poirier. You're at a 10, but I'm at a freaking 50. It's so that's what I think it would be. But still, that why a guy like Alex Volkanovski not doesn't carry the same aura because of one stupid loss way back in the day. But I think there's an advantage to not having that. Aaron Blanchfield talked about her controversial loss against Tracy Cortez, that it's actually an advantage having not carrying the pressure of being undefeated. And I think that's something that Maddalena does. And that's because he can kind of get a little bit slower road up than your Chimaevs. And again, the personality goes into that. Chimaev calls for the big fights, so that's why he's getting in fights at behind the scenes and stuff. Like he kind of brings it onto himself too. But give me the name you want. And I'll throw this to the chat too. Your booking and the way we do it, no one says no. We're the ultimate supreme being. No one can say no. We say this person versus that person, they fight. Give me your name and I'll throw it to the chat. Give me the names that you want him to fight.
The names they threw at him kind of in the press conference were Vicente Luque and Danny Rodriguez. I like either of those.
Okay.
Like guys at the 11 through 15 spots.
Yeah. Him and Rodriguez would be fun. That would be fun. Mm-hmm. What was the first name? Vicente
Luque.
Yeah, Luque versus anybody is fun.
Well, and the thing is, Luque is a blood and guts guy, but he's also a fantastic ground fighter. We might learn a few things about Della Maddalena.
So, oh God, I'm not gonna get this name right. I'm sorry. Tigga that thought. I'm super sorry. I know. Ben rolls these things off the tongue like freaking John Anik. I can't do it, guys.
Well, the ironic thing is, I'm Vietnamese, and I'm scared to try to pronounce that one.
Okay. Triple T over here.
Triple T.
That was actually a fight I was thinking of because to me it's a name test, but it's not really a stylistic test. It's not like he should smash, especially Robbie Lawler at this point, probably Ponzinibbio at this point. Another name Dev threw out, Michelle Pajea. That would be just so much fun. Juice X is saying Renka versus Renka might be too much. I actually agree with that. I'm going to give you a name in a second, but he goes Brian Battle or Chaos Williams. I like Chaos Williams. I like that matchup. Brian Battle, not so much because I feel like Brian Battle's kind of the same thing, like his kind of rising up. So I went with a guy who's a name that's not even close to rankings. But I also you stick a guy in his home country, you kind of want to get him a win. That I know I have that boxing mentality in me where I'm trying to set him up for a spectacular win. Like, what is Gunnar Nelson doing?
Waiting for the next card in the UK.
Yeah,
or they just kind of roll him out with the rest of the rest of the SBG Ireland guys.
Maybe that's probably more likely. But I'm bringing in Gunnar Nelson. I mean, he's a name. I think Jack Maddalena smashes him right now. But there is a little bit of a threat there because if Gunnar gets to the ground, Gunnar's obviously really good. It's where his background, but he has that a different stylistic, being a karate stylist on the feet. More Taekwondo kind of traditional martial arts stuff. That's what I would do. But I like a lot of the names that are out there. I don't know if I see Bass throw out Gunnar Nelson too. I don't know if he responded to mine or I don't know if I said it first or he was just asking. So, Jack Maddalena, I'm pretty sure he's going to be on at least one of our Bulls lists. Before that, probably the most controversial fight, and I'm going to ask the chat and everybody tell me who you scored it for, and I'm going to say This really pissed me off, this fight, and I'll tell you why. As Zhalgas Zhumagulov took on Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson won a split decision.
This is your controversial loss to Tracy Cortez. It takes the
Yeah,
pressure off you.
I'll tell you why. I went 10-1.
Yep.
It's the only fight I got wrong. I had
It
an
is.
11-0 night.
But
Now,
see,
again, I might have got Derek Lewis wrong.
Just like that one meaningless,
Yeah.
early career loss. This is what keeps, like James Krause from watching our previews and using them to like fill his secret betting Discord, and getting us in trouble along with him. Like all of a sudden we'll be banned from UFC events too.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second too. We're definitely gonna get to that in a second. And I'm sure everyone will have their opinion on that. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I probably would have got Derek Lewis one wrong, but I had a 29-28 Zhumagulov. I know I'm pushing his name. I gave him the first 2 rounds. I know there's an argument for Johnson in the second round. How did you score the fight?
I scored it 29-28 for Zhumagulov, the same as you did. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to this, but he is easily the best fighter ever to go 1-5 in the UFC.
Yeah, I saw someone say that he has lost 3 decisions that all could have went for him. I know Howland Paiva I think it was his UFC debut. He could have won. What other one am I forgetting? Plus tonight. And there's another fight he lost by split decision. I can't remember who it was, but the poor guy, he's doing his like best, Courtney Casey type, can't win a split decision. I don't know. To me, this fight really came down to who was marching forward. When Zhalgas was marching forward, he was forcing. I mean, and guys, obviously they fight differently when they're on the heels.
Yeah.
You lose power, you're defensive, your motion, you have to go from the heels to the balls of your feet to that. Just that even like split second difference is a punch that's landing versus not landing. But when Johnson was moving forward and throwing a lot of kicks, that's the other thing. When you're back to foot, it's much harder to kick. Johnson did really well. But to me, I had two rounds in the bag. I thought they were pretty clear too.
I agree.
He did a nice run at the end. He did a nice run at the end of the second round that probably stole him the round.
I guess, but I think. I mean, here, let me throw this up on. Well, no, like you put it up there, Mew Mew. Judges don't like him. I think there's something to that. Here, he was pretty aggressive. He was uncharacteristically aggressive for himself, I thought. But normally, he's got a style that judges just don't love. They probably can't pronounce his name. He looks like he gets free haircuts from his mom. It's just like he's never going to win fights on sizzle.
I don't know.
Good conversation going on in the chat here. I think part of his problem might be that he has 2 wives. That's got to impact his gas tank. Like it's bad. I mean, there was also the comment that he's too small for the division. He's on the small side, but he wouldn't be too small for the division if he fought differently. That's as simple as I can make it. Because when he was across from people like, Albazi and Rivera, like Charles Johnson is huge.
Yeah,
but normally Zhumagulov doesn't look. Yeah, Paiva's huge, but against most of these guys,
either. I think Paiva missed weight for that fight for some reason. He missed weight a lot. I think he missed weight for that one.
I think Manel Kopp might have. Manel Kopp always missed weight.
Probably missed weight.
Yeah, but he's not the biggest guy in the division, but he's not the smallest either. Like I think he'd be okay if he fought differently, but he's got a fight style that just. And I've said this about a few fighters before. It's going to make it hard to string any wins together just because it makes all of his fights just super close and hard to score round by round.
Yeah. Alan McDonald said that Jeff Molina, that was the fight we were thinking of. That was a fight that a lot of people gave for him. They brought up a good point is the gas tank. I don't think he has a bad gas tank, but the way he fights, you need to have a great one. Yeah. And we only go in 3 rounds at flyweight. That's going to be tough because really flyweights don't gas out. So I think that was a really good point. Bass says he thought he beat Paiva.
Yeah, Paiva, Molina, and Johnson are the 3.
Yeah, I'm leaving this up there. The reality filter, really popular statement. I want to ask you, and obviously we've talked about this in the past, but just in case someone hasn't seen this, where do you stand on open scoring, pro or against? Because there's not many against, and you know where I stand on it. But where do you stand on it?
I'm for it, actually. Yeah.
Okay, tell me why. I just don't think the little bit of added suspense
is worth just the confusion and the patent injustice that we get sometimes. There just aren't many sports where you don't know whether you're winning or not,
Yep.
at any point during the contest.
Yeah, that's a really fair point. That's I always think that's the strongest point. The one point I hear, and I am in the minority, the very small minority. It's like DC, me, the guys who really understand the sport. Like, I like it the way it is. I understand the argument. I really do. I understand the fairness of not knowing. I understand that you fight differently. As a coach, you can give different advice if you're winning or losing. The one concern I have, which we've seen in others, like another sport that's a combat sports that you see a lot when someone's up is NCAA wrestling. And when a guy is up and a guy is really good, and you go into defensive mode, it is really hard to land. You land better strikes when a guy opens up. You land more takedowns when if a guy goes at like an extremely high level, and again, I'm switching this to NCAA, but an extremely high level wrestler goes into defensive wrestler mode, it is incredibly hard to take them down. Mm-hmm. Now, if we had open scoring, do we have a stalling system where you lose points? Yeah, we could. But those aren't perfect. Anytime you have human opinion, you're going to have controversial. Oh my God, he's called stalling this fight, but they didn't call stalling that fight. The guy just lost the fight. The guy just lost his win bonus. You're going to have that. The only thing my concern is when a guy's up and he's up, you go into a championship fight and you're up 3-1, and you're up 3-1. You start going defensive. You're moving. I think we'd have really shitty fifth rounds. Now the argument always is, well, the guy losing knows he needs a knockout and he's going to go for it. Yeah, that could happen, and it obviously will happen.
It happened last week.
But it happened last week. So like not the best timing, not the best timing for my argument. But on the flip side is when a guy goes defensively, your chances of landing a knockout is actually less than if they're opening up thinking they might need the fifth round. A guy fights differently if they're up 3-1 heading into the fifth round than they are 2-2 heading in the fifth round. Again, how do they know? I don't know. But now I've heard people say, well, every other sport has, like you could have said, well, you know what? You can't hide the score in football. You know how many touchdowns they scored versus how many touchdowns. Like you can take away the scoreboard and everyone still knows what the score is. Right. Baseball, you take away the baseball, everyone still knows the score. So, I don't know. Maybe that's something like a Bellator does or PFL does to make themselves. And I know Invicta has done it in the past, but make them different in the UFC to lure.
Well, is it any surprise that the one state athletic commission that's trying it right now happens to be where James Krause lives?
I'm saving the James Krause to the Miles Johns. I'm saving it.
He is my Bo Nickel. I'm going to drop a mention of him every place I can for the whole show.
Yeah. But so I'm not passionate about it. If we go to open scoring, it's still the greatest sport in the world. So before that, I would say, so what was your record tonight? I know you had a really good night too.
I had not as good a night as you. I went, 8-3. I got Fialho. I picked Fialho and Sherman, and I picked Bleda over Silva, which we'll get to later.
Okay. But still, that's still a really solid night. 8-3. The best night, the best pick we both were on was this one, Jennifer Maia versus Mario Moroz. Jennifer Maia was a underdog for some reason. We both were head scratching about that. Like we had no idea why. And the way we predict this fight was pretty much it. We both said she's deceivingly fast. She hits harder. She's going to slip and rip. She has good output. Like, what was Maria Moroz better than Jennifer Maia at? And we saw that.
And, I mean, I was mildly surprised that Moroz did not make more of a concerted effort to bring things to the ground. Because even though Maia comes from a judo background, she is that shoot-a-box tattoo on her leg.
Yeah.
I mean, she knows judo, but she only uses it if somebody makes her. And Moroz has thus far proven herself to be most of a threat on the ground.
It's your Shogun Hua. Yeah, Shogun Hua's jiu-jitsu. Like he has it, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm not talking about 2022 Shogun. I'm talking about 2004 Shogun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was amazed at just like little L stepping and just little slipping to the right, and Moreau's had no response to it. She was like swinging at air and just getting responded. It was crazy how much the commentary team, and I know you a lot of times you don't listen to the commentary. They were talking about Marina Morose's striking and saying like, "Oh, Maya's got to take this fight right to the ground." I'm like, when did Marina Morose turn into like prime Anderson Silva? Like where did this come from?
Yeah, like she's a below average striker, and she's improving. She was terrible.
Yeah, she's average. She's average. She has the physical gifts, like she not Nzechukwu, but that she's taller, longer. She has physical tools that she can work an outside game. But holy Christ, they made it seem like it was just this incredible elite of the elite striking, and I'm like, I mean, I understand commentary of the UFC. There's a narrative you have to push, and I get that. The Travis Lutter is the Michael Jordan of jiu-jitsu and all this nonsense.
And Marina Morose is the Travis Lutter of striking.
So Maya is what it is. She's not going to win a title, but she's always going to be a tough test, and she's in the rankings. What would you do with her?
Nobody's going to win a title as long as Valentina Shevchenko is there. I mean,
Maya's
come as close as anybody except for Tyler Santos.
Yeah. Well, hold on, Ben. There's an undefeated fighter from New Jersey who looked really good last week.
Oh,
and I'm saying she's
sort of undefeated.
I'm always going to say she's undefeated because that was a robbery.
This undefeated fighter from New Jersey, huh? Like, yeah, Casey O'Neill got that real New Jersey accent on it. It's like,
I'm not, just for the record, I'm not picking Erin Blanchfield to beat Valentina Shevchenko, though Shevchenko was getting taken down by Santos. Blanchfield's another different animal on the ground.
Yep.
What would you do? What would you do with Jennifer Maia? Would you want to use her as a test with somebody else? Do you want to book her against another top 10? What would you like to do?
I would use Maia as a test for some of these up-and-comers. Like just realistically, she's not going to get a title shot as long as Valentina Shevchenko has the title. Like, her high water mark was arguably winning one round. So I would use her for a Blanchfield. I would use her for an O'Neill. Even now that Miranda Maverick and Macy Barber seem to be kind of like turning the bus around a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So Macy Barber was the name I wrote down. I thought about Miranda Maverick, and I said, Macy Barber, she was one of these ones where she burst on the scene, was the next big thing. Oh my God, she's going to be the champion. She's her next John Jones. Then she stumbles a little bit, and everybody gives up on her. She's a bust. And then suddenly she's starting to turn it around, and she's starting to look really good. And a lot of that has to do is, don't forget, when she lost her first fight, she destroyed her whole knee.
Yeah.
And then she kind of came back, looked a little flat. I wonder how much of that had to be with an injury.
Agreed.
So who knows? But I think Maya's the test. If she can get past Maya, then I believe in her again. Like, I'm not saying she's going to win the title, but she's a top 5-ish fighter.
Yeah, and it would show almost certainly that her striking has continued to improve, because I think Macy Barber, like, just her technical striking, like, she has good power and good instincts, but like just the actual technique of her striking has always been the thing that's lagged behind the most for her. So that would be an interesting test as far as Maia goes, because Maia made Morose look very basic and a step behind this whole time. She could do that. Like, if Barber hasn't improved, it would turn into a fight where Barber like runs right past Maia multiple times.
Yeah.
Almost like Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to address what Kyle Lahi said about Maia did not look good. Ben wasn't saying that she looked good. She's just saying it's like the Alabama or one of these, I don't know who's the top football, Alabama or Clemson and one of these top programs. They score 50 playing Appalachian State, and then like the next week they play University of Rhode Island and they win like 50-7. Like, hey, that's the best anybody's done. Like, that's pretty good. We scored a touchdown. Like, they put in that freshman and we scored a touchdown. Kind of thing. That's how I kind of feel like that's what Ben was trying to say.
Yeah.
All right. Miles Johns took on Vince Morales, and the big news was James Krause couldn't coach Miles Johns, who recently left Fortis MMA, went over to Glory MMA and Fitness, where James Krause is the head coach, because James Krause was not allowed to coach per the UFC or maybe the commission or whatever. I know there's been kind of conflicting stories. This is true. Miles Johns and Vince Morales actually did a protest and decided not to fight. If he can't coach, they won't fight.
Well, they decided to take the whole first round off, at least that's for sure.
I thought
Strikes.
It was terrible. The fight was terrible.
4 strikes.
And Miles Johns won the round because when he punched and Morales blocked, like he moved Morales' hands back a little harder because he throws harder. It was like that punching bag machine, the ones you get at like the arcade where you have the ball and you run up and punch. Miles got the higher score in that, so he won the round. And then won the fight because of that. I mean, he got a takedown and nothing happened. And is there anything you want to say about this fight?
It was terrible, and Johns salvaged the best he could out of a bad situation.
Yeah, and I want to give him a little I was high on Johns, and I kind of got off the bandwagon, and new team, new everything. I'm going to give him a little bit of pass. He took this fight on 2 weeks' notice. From my understanding, what it sounds like minutes before he was going to fight, he was told his coach.
They pulled it. They pulled it the night before. He was like, we found out at the dinner table the night before. But yeah,
Ben, that's still minutes.
It is. It's hundreds of minutes, but it is minutes.
It's still, it might be like, it might be like 8,000 minutes, but it's still minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm giving him a pass.
Oh, sure.
I don't feel better about him moving forward. But that said, a couple of weeks ago, the Derek Minner situation where there's conflicting reports. Derek Minner, it sounds like he had an injury. Didn't disclose it to anybody besides his team. People found out about it. How that got out, who knows? Tons of betting went in against his opponent. It went from I don't know what it was his opponent was a negative 200 favorite to a negative 400, negative 450. The under, everything went crazy where it seemed like everybody found out. It was a huge controversy. This was, I think, 2 events ago, correct? 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
This, I'm assuming that James Krause was pulled for that because this James Krause, he does a betting show and he bets and there's some controversy.
Has continued to openly give betting advice right up until this past week.
What the fuck, dude? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's I feel it's one of those ones where your boss calls you in the office. And just so you guys know, this is what Mike Fridley does to Ben all the time. Ben, I can't fire you for doing this, but I highly suggest stop talking to Keith on a podcast because you got to say something stupid and have to get you fired. And then Ben keeps still doing the show. Man, I can't fire you, but dude, how many fucking warnings are you gonna get?
Yeah. J-Sex brings up a point. The Louis Spivak betting line went through the roof right before they called the fight. It went in favor of Spivak.
What the fuck?
It jumped from almost 2-1 to almost 3-1 in the space of an hour. And
I had no. See, I'm not a bettor. I don't bet on the fights.
Yeah.
But I always tell people
he doesn't even know the odds on the fights until I read them off to him on the preview shows.
Yep. For a couple of reasons. One, I don't bet. I've told you this before. I've had a close loved one who did some stupid shit with betting. So that's one reason. Not that I'm not concerned I would get addicted or anything like that. But two, that's not our show. Our show is we watch the film, we say who wins. If there's people who's better at this. Jay Petrie's fantastic with his I think he had
prime
really
picks.
good. Yeah, his prime pick. I think he did a really good one this week. Sean Sheehan, who's with Sherdog, does a really good one. Garrett Kerman, who's filled in before on the previous show, he does a good one. This and there's 10,000 other ones.
Yeah,
that they all do good. So that's why. But so that's why I don't know this stuff. I didn't know. What was the betting line? I know Derek Lewis was a slight favorite, correct?
No. Lewis was
Who's the
almost a 2-1 underdog.
Oh, Jesus
Like
Christ.
3 days
You told
ago,
me the betting line. I forgot.
yeah, he was almost a 3-1 underdog, like an hour into the broadcast.
Okay, and this is another reason why I tell you. This is actually the number is why I don't check the betting line. I don't be influenced by the betting line.
Right.
Like that's
Same reason I usually watch events with the sound off, because the commentary will otherwise,
Sure.
like influence me. Yeah.
Yeah. So wow, gosh, like what is that? But that's a main event. So main event will change a little bit more than that on the card. But again, someone like maybe Sean Sheehan or Jay can kind of address this. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys. Me and you aren't really breaking news guys that really dig into this stuff. But that doesn't look good. I don't know if that's connected to James Krause. No idea.
Nope.
But
it's a pretty safe guess that James Krause getting pulled from this event is a result of the ongoing Derek Minner investigation.
Yeah. And
because like the Nevada State Athletic Commission is looking into that. So
yeah, Chris got me on that one. Hey, I used to get punched out in the head, so that's you know, maybe smoke some weed too much in junior high or something. What do you want to say? Like, I really don't want to. Like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know if James Krause let the public know, let people know about the injury. We don't know if he placed bets himself. I don't want to accuse somebody of that.
Or told his Discord chat minions to bet one way and then he bets the other way once the line moves, which is that. I mean, that's just like extremely shady. Like that the problem with that should be obvious to anybody.
Is that what happened? Like, I haven't followed this story.
Well, some people on Twitter who claim they belong to his Discord channel, like his private pay one, and said that they have multiple examples of him telling his people to bet one way so that he could put his money the other way once the line's moved.
And he has a big enough Discord that it would change the line that much?
On these lower level, like especially on lower level fights, yeah. I mean, it doesn't take many bets to move things a lot.
I know it's funny when they're like, oh, big action just came in. And they're like, $5,000 bet just came. Like, really, guys, 5,000? That's what, right? Like,
yeah.
like right now, someone's dropping $1 million on an NFL game or something, and soccer game.
Oh, dude, there's a furniture store owner here in Houston who won $75 million on the Astros winning the World Series.
Yeah,
$75 million. Like that's a personal bet.
Well, hold on, sorry, he bet $75 million.
He bet, yeah. Well, he bet enough to win $75 million. Obviously, he got plus odds on the Astros winning, but yeah, he bet. Yeah, because he does this thing where if you buy over $3,000 worth of furniture, you get it for free if the Astros win the World Series. So he places a huge bet to kind of cover his losses.
Is it Jordan Furniture? Because we have that in New England.
No, this guy's name, like he's just a local guy. He's just in Houston.
Yeah, I think Jordan's Furniture might be like just New England because they do the same thing. The Red Sox win the World Series. You get all your furniture for free. That must be like a gimmick going around for. So, did you get any furniture, man? like a nice ottoman or something?
Should have.
No faith in your Astros?
No. Well, I should have apparently.
You could have got a second bed. You could have got a second wife, like Zalgis. You could have got a second wife, another bed.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. Like, I have my hands full keeping one happy.
Is it Mattress Mac? It is
Mattress Mac. Jim McInbale. Mattress Mac.
Is Chris Wiz? Is he from the Houston area? Do we know this?
I don't think so. Like if you follow baseball news closely, it was like front page news the day after the after the World Series ended.
Can we get because I'll pump the shit out of Mattress Mac. Can we get him as a sponsor? Because that just sounds awesome. Someone reach out to Mattress. Chris Wiz, make that happen. Reach out to Mattress Mac and we'll cut you a share if you get us a sponsor. Anything else you want to say about this? I don't know. I don't really know enough. If James Krause is doing shady shit, he needs to get thrown out of MMA altogether. Like, he ban his fighters, ban everybody, anybody associated with him. Like, cut them all from the UFC. And it sucks because there's a really good team. There was one time that was the blossoming team coming up. And James Krause was the darling. Let's not forget about it. James Krause was the darling. Like, he was the guy stepping up on taking on Trevin Giles, moving up a weight class on 30 seconds notice, like
Yeah.
to kind of go that quick 180. Again, I don't know if he's doing anything wrong. I have no idea. It
No.
just
I
doesn't
mean,
look good.
there's a lot of smoke.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I'm going to address this a little bit later on, but anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, we kind of use that terrible fight as just a platform to talk about other things for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know what you want to
That
talk
fight
about.
was
Like,
terrible.
yeah, Miles Johnson throwing a same overhand right, and Vince Morales doing nothing, throwing a jab, and um, really, really fun fight versus Houston's own Ricky Tercios versus Kevin Natividad. Tercios won a split decision. How did you score this fight?
I scored this fight for Tercios, but I was fine with Natividad winning it. It was a couple of individually really hard to score rounds. Yeah, I scored it for Tercios. I think I gave Tercios the first and third, but
Yeah,
the first could have gone either way.
Yeah, I had it. I think I scored it again. Shout out to Chris Woods, who already bashed me for forgetting things. I don't remember how I scored the fight. If it's not a controversial one, I kind of like forget. But I think I had it 3-0. I think I had it 30-27 for Tercios. But it was one of those ones where I'm like, this could be a 30-27 the other way. Like, it was really fun.
I'm just glad it wasn't the worst fight of the night, like Tercios' last fight against Damon Zahabi. I will say this. I mean, I was a little hard on Natividad coming into this one. I think you even said, that you weren't quite as down on him as I was. I will say this. Sherdog associate editor, the now lead editor at comingsoon.net, Tyler Treese, made a comment in the Sherdog Slack. I'm pretty sure it was Tyler.
First of all, I didn't know that. Congratulations to him.
Yeah. He said that Kevin Natividad is like the new Clay Guida, where like his excess of motion makes it seem like he's a better striker and wrestler than he is.
Okay.
Because I was like, he's not that good a wrestler, and it's not that. It's that it becomes deceptive, I think, because he has a lot of kind of like weird excess movement.
Yeah, it's funny that you're talking about movement, because actually that was a difference in the Tercios. I think that's why Tercios won, because he doesn't stop moving. He's like, he's like my kids play with this like freaking goop or something. I don't know what you call it. Like it's not Play-Doh, but like, I don't know. They stick this like thing in their hand, they play with it, and it like slimes all over through your hands and shit. Just
I know the stuff. Yeah,
I don't know what it's called, but that's Tercios. Like, he gets hurt or he gets taken down, and like he hits the ground. He's already moving. He's already sweeping. He's already tucking. He's already Grammy rolling. He's rolling underneath for legs. And even when he gets hurt, isn't that like most people get hurt and they get rocked? Like, he stumbles forward. Like, he stumbles towards you. Like, he stumbles into like a takedown attempt. He stumbles into the clinch. And I just think that like Natividad, I was waiting for Natividad to like mentally break from that. He never did, to his credit.
No.
But I felt like he was always it's called wet snail. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that sounds right. Wet snails. So yeah, you're probably right. You can't hold on to it. You just keep sliding on your hand, and you can't catch it, and like you flip it back and forth with your hand. Like, that's Tercios, and it's so freaking fun to watch. It's like funk wrestling at his best, and just would win the positions just a little bit at a time. And I loved it. And the insane cardio. This is just one of those fights. Like, I could watch this fight 100 times straight and not be bored.
Yeah, at his best, he's extremely fun to watch. That wildness, that funkiness, I think it does put a hard ceiling on his upside at 135. I mean, like, he has a wild style, and 135, once you get to the top 15, it is full of guys that do not suffer fools gladly. I think just like your Ricky Simone types will just kind of shake all that off and just badly out-grapple him and probably hurt him on the feet.
Yeah. That's kind of what Dev just kind of mentioned. Like, he said it's definition of good for, fun for a good time, but not for a long time, that style. It was really good. The best part was at the end, where Tercios was like preaching to my soul, saying like, man, go for your dreams. I believe in you. I want you to succeed. I'm like, man, this guy's touching my heart, man. Like, I was like, take my hat off for a second while he's talking, man, I was like, got to put into the collection plate. Like, this guy, man, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he's fun. I love him. I know you love him, but
I love the guy. I know him well. I consider his head coach here at home, Alex Morono, a friend. He's just a real fun guy. Very lovable.
All right. I'll throw a challenge to you, Ben. When we talk
Okay.
about this fight, Vanessa Demopoulos beat Maria Oliveira. I'll throw a challenge to you, and I'll throw a different challenge to the chat. Ben, do not make any stripper jokes.
Okay.
And the chat, throw out your best stripper joke. Vanessa Demopoulos beats Maria Oliveira. I'll say this about Demopoulos. She's won 3 in a row. She's already 34. So it's like it's hard to get excited for her. Like she's 34 years old. Like if she was 24, I'd be like, oh wow, like we could have a contender one day. Her striking is really coming. I mean, she dropped Oliveira today, and it's because of the threat of the takedown. And I love that she's kind of remember Jay-Z Cavalcante?
Of course.
Remember when he was like one of the top guys? When I was actually like fighting, there's one move he used to always do, and me being like a wrestler, and that's what most people would be worried about my takedown. Just the way he would fake a takedown and come up with his hands. She was kind of doing this, and that's kind of something I used to steal. Not that I'm comparing myself to them, but I really like that she's doing it. She's doing it like up and down feints. You don't know if she's going to shoot or she like does a dipping overhand, right? There's something here though. Like I'm not saying she's going to win a title every top 10, but she's being more successful in the UFC than I thought she was going to be.
She is. You and I both picked Demopoulos in this fight, and we were right. She won, but I figured she was probably going to get touched up a little bit on the feet and was going to have to find some desperate way to get things to the ground. Like, I mentioned on the preview, and I think you agreed that Demopoulos, she looks like she should be a great wrestler, but she ends up using a lot of jiu-jitsu-y type takedowns. She'll, get a trip and body lock. She'll do a standing back take, that kind of thing. Here, her physicality just carried the day. I mean, she got a 10-8 round in the second round off of a takedown that doesn't really have a name. She just bowled a woman over and landed on top. That's all it took. I think we might be kind of seeing her ceiling, but her ceiling's already higher than I thought it was going to be. Her fights are usually fun while she's here. Mew Mew asks, Vanessa better than Ricci? All I can say about that is we assume that Vanessa does not have any particular pickiness about the size of the pole, whereas we know that Ricci does.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, that's a good question. That'd actually be. I know you're going a different. You guys are both going.
Yeah, I went in a very different direction.
But the fight itself would actually be a lot of fun. Listen, the reason why I make a lot of stripper jokes about Demopoulos, listen, it's not that she was a stripper. Like whatever, everyone has to make some money. It was like her mom was a stripper, her dad was the DJ. That's just fucking weird. I'm sorry. Like I'm not playing like, freaking 50 Cent is my freaking daughter's taking off her clothes. Not happening. Hey guys, get up to the stage. Here comes my daughter. That's fucking weird. I'm sorry. I know we live in a world. I'm very concerned. I know when it comes to, I consider myself more of a conservative type person. I'm sorry. That's fucking weird. But hey, you know what? I'm glad she's doing well in MMA, and honestly, she's making me a believer a little bit. Like her hands are coming. Like what I like about her? They're jumping. Like we're seeing knocking people down. Like if Oliveira was supposed to be the don't stand on the feet with her. Oh God, Dev, it's called the family discount. Oh Jesus, let's move on before I get myself fired.
Sounds good.
Fernie Garcia took on Brady Heiston. Heiston's only 23. That's really hard to believe.
And he looks good. We both picked Brady in this one, but it was one of the fights that I was least comfortable with my pick. Even though I think his ceiling is higher than Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia is a veteran with an established style, pretty physically strong, decent gas tank. And I was like, maybe this will just be a too much too soon thing, and he'll win 30-27, and we'll just be smacking our foreheads. But no, Brady Heaston looked pretty good.
Yeah. See, I'm kind of the sense everyone was saying how dominant, and he did. He's a good wrestler, and he's been out for a while, so some of that could have been some ring rust. I just think there's a little bit more of a killer instinct. You're against a, if we're talking Fernie Garcia has a limit. I doubt we ever see him as a main card. And when I say main card, I don't mean a fight night guy who just happens. I mean I'm talking about fighting top 15, 20 guys, opening up pay-per-views. I'm saying guy with some hype. I don't think we see that with Fernie Garcia. And to take a guy down, be in the position you want to be for a really long time, and not getting a submission, not really getting close, not landing some really hard ground and pound. The only thing I was missing a killer instinct. Other top prospects would have finished that fight. That's the one that I'm like, but he's 23. So, like, that's why I was like, well, he's only 23. Like, I'm being a little harsh on the guy. So, I was somebody that there's a little older, that there'd be like 26 or something. So, I feel good. It was okay. Like, I wasn't like, I was looking at Twitter and people were going crazy, and I was like, yeah, it was an okay performance.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about this fight?
No, not really. Like, that's pretty much what it merited.
And one of the fights I actually was probably the most excited about, and I still believe that, was Natalia Silva versus Teresa Bleda. Bleda being 20 years old, and Silva being the seasoned 25 years old. Two really young fighters that I feel really good about. I like them both. I know you said you kind of both like them both. Do you still feel that way about Bleda, even though she got stopped? And
she got stopped, and that doesn't bother me. I mean, anyone can get caught with something. The problem is that, like, Bleda, by the time she got knocked out, she was tired. She'd run out of ideas to bring the fight to the ground, and that's why her face was in the right place to eat that kick.
Yeah,
that's my problem. My question now is Bleda just a 20-year-old that, it's just this will be, we'll look back on this as, oh, remember when she lost to what's her name, Silva, when she's UFC champ 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Or did we just see an overly sucked out bantamweight fighting tonight? Because Bleda was huge, and if that's part of the problem with her being the one that got tired faster and was just kind of walking in mud by the time she got finished, then I mean that's more easily solvable.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about the cutting the weight. Like, I don't know how much she cuts weight, but she's huge. I mean, if she moved up the weight, she wouldn't be small. Definitely, she's 20, so she's going to continue to grow into her body and her physique. I wouldn't mind seeing her move up. I don't think she'll be out muscled. I'm going the other route. I think this is going to be one of those ones where we're saying, wow, look at this. Like, Silva and Bleda opened up a card that was headlined by Iwan Cutelaba. Like, I think we'll be saying that 3-4 years from now.
No.
Like that's what I think we'll be saying. Because what I like about her, Bleda, and we'll get to Silva in a second. Everyone's probably like, why the heck he's not talking about Silva? She looked incredible. Bleda, she's 20 years old. She has the physical tools. Like, she's big, she's strong. She can wrestle. She has an area where I think she can be elite.
Yeah.
And she's only 20. So the rest of that stuff can come, like tucking the chin. I think the gas tank, the inexperience, a little bit being so wrestle heavy, like when she develops other skills, I think she's gonna be good. I think she's gonna be a top 10. Silva, one I really liked. One of those ones, almost the opposite. Like, didn't come in the UFC as this really crazy prospect, but the more you watch film of her, she looks good. She's fast, like really fast and accurate, and she's the opposite of Brady Houston. She has a mean streak in her. Like, when she was throwing heat right from the very start. She was trying to take Bleda's head off.
Yeah.
Fast. I like she was creative. She was mixing up the shots, throwing some kicks, spinning attacks. Even though she was taken down once by Bleda, she had some good takedown defense for the rest of the fight. Clearly undersized compared to Bleda. She looked really good. Like, I really think the future is really bright for her.
Agreed.
And then obviously the knockout was. I think the knockout would have been a knockout of the year candidate if Bleda went out cold.
Agreed. I mean, it has pretty much everything else. I mean, obviously not the highest stakes fight, but it has a little bit of trivia. It's the first spinning back kick knockout in a women's bout in UFC history. Yeah, if it had been a cleaner knockout, I think it would have been on a lot of top 5 lists at the end of the year, at least.
Yeah, I think, that's the thing that we were missing from this card. That kind of just sums up the card. Like, could have been really good, but it just came up short. So there you guys have it. We have covered all 11 fights as best as we probably could for this card. We went off the rails a little bit to make it a little longer than I thought. So we're actually kind of in the right normal range of time. Do we have any awards? Do we know if we have the awards yet?
Oh, they should be up by now. Let's take a look. We got them.
All
We
right.
have
So
4 performances of the night, no fight of the night.
no.
So let us know in the chat whom you would give the bonuses to.
All right.
If you think the UFC is wrong and there should have been a fight of the night, put that in there. Otherwise,
Okay.
yeah, give me in the chat whom you would give your 4 performance of the night bonuses to.
Okay. All right. I would have done a fight of the night. I really enjoyed the Tercios versus Natividad. I would have gave them the fight of the night, but I'll do this. I'll give 4 performances because there wasn't a fight of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Natalia Silva for sure. Like we said, if Blader goes out, then she's definitely getting a performance bonus. She was out on her feet. Oh no, it wasn't on her feet, but you know what I'm saying. She was out upright on the cage. Jack Delamadolino, like that was a flawless victory to me. He's getting one. Nzechukwu, like getting a stoppage, moving up to the main event, and then I'll go with Salikov. I think, went deep in the fight, so it wasn't, your first round knockouts kind of weigh a little bit more than the third round, but the way it happened, spinning attacks and everything. Those are the 4 I would go with. What would you go with, Ben?
I actually am completely in agreement with the 4 awards that the UFC gave out. Very rare that I agree 100%, but your actual winners were Muslim Salikov for his 3rd round knockout of Andre Fialho, Natalia Silva for that spectacular spinning back kick knockout, Kennedy Nzechukwu for his 2nd round TKO of Iwan Cutelaba in the main event, and Jack Della Maddalena for absolutely pasting Danny Roberts.
So we picked them exactly right.
Yep.
Nice.
I like
That's
the
the kind of day I'm having, my man.
Yeah. I like the people are calling Jack Della Maddalena JDM. 1, it's quicker. 2, it reminds me that like his nose looks like JDS's. Like he's an awfully young man for his nose to have that many miles on it. I support this. Like if he was as interesting as his nose, he'd already be a superstar right now.
So Mio thought fight of the night should have been Demopoulos and Oliveira. Okay,
I think that was a fun fight.
No, yeah, absolutely. It was a great fight. I like Tercios and Natividad, but my backup one, I would have went with not that I like the decision, but Johnson and Zalgis. That was a really good fight. It was really entertaining.
Yeah,
the decision was wrong, and screwed me on my perfect night, and you guys wouldn't have heard the end of it. So, all right, let's get to the Bulls and the Bears, the Cutlass. Do you want to go negative? You want to go positive? What do you want to do?
Oh man!
Oh! I'm fine. Mio was saying he was joking. I think that was a good fight.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Do we have a cut list?
I have 3 for the cut list. I'm going negative.
Yeah, let's.
Well, James Krause. James Krause is on the cut list, obviously. Yeah, I got 3. So for those who aren't familiar with the cut list, the way the cut list works, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's who we think should no longer be in the UFC. And it sounds extremely negative, and it is, but it's also opening the door for other people. If they're on both mine and Ben's list, we give the UFC permission to get rid of the people. We'll throw up people's cut list nominations too. Bass goes with Cutelaba, Roberts, Morales, Samagulov, and Oliver. Well, Bass is, man, he's being real negative.
Savage. Oof. Bass is cleaning out the man.
Yeah, Ben, how many do you have?
Oh my goodness, I see 4.
Oh, you're going even more. I thought you were like, when I said I had 3, I thought I was being negative. You got 4, so I'm obviously saving one person. I have a feeling who that one person I might be saving. Give me your first person, man.
My first is Kevin Natividad. He's 0-3 in the UFC.
And yeah, so I am not having Kevin Natividad, and I'll tell you why. Anytime I think you get fight of the night, you get one more fight from me. So that's why it was such a fun fight. I didn't want to come because of that.
Okay.
So I saved Kevin Natividad, so you can thank me later. So we probably have the same 3, but give me a next choice.
Jalga Shumagulov. Fair or not, he's 1-5 in the UFC.
Okay. I'm saving him again. The guy got screwed. He won that fight.
Whew.
So I'm saving him again. All right. So Give me a third one. It'd be fantastic if I have none of your four and you have none of my three.
Danny Roberts.
What's his Danny Roberts' record right now? How many in a row has he lost?
It's just 2, but he's lost 4 of his last 6.
Yeah. How old is Danny Roberts?
He is 35.
All right. I changed mine. You convinced me. I'm changing mine to 4. I will add Danny Roberts to my list just because the division's so deep. Get somebody else in there. So Danny Roberts is officially cut from the Shillan and Duffy show. Give me another one, Ben.
This one's going to be controversial. Well, I mean, as our show goes. Ivan Cutelaba.
Ivan Cutelaba. The guy's in the main event, Ben.
Accidentally.
Yeah. Dude, I thought about him, and I said, dude, the guy's in the main event. And I said, even worse, he was at least in the co-main event. His fights are fun. I didn't cut Ivan Cutelaba, and the only reason I did it is because he's losing to really good guys.
I mean, the UFC isn't going to cut him. This isn't me predicting.
No.
If anything, Chase Sherman's going to be the one they cut.
Yeah.
But Cutelaba probably should be, because at this point, I've given up hope he's going to turn a corner anytime soon.
So even though you had 4 people on your cut list and I had 3, we've only cutting one person, Danny Roberts, who I didn't originally have on my list. Ben convinced me. And that was simply just, I don't know, I skipped over him real quick. The 3 I had that Ben is saving, Chase Sherman. Listen, he sucks. The guy's lost 5 out of 6. He's not good.
He's 3-10 in the UFC now.
Yeah,
3-10.
I'm cutting Chase Sherman.
He has the worst record in UFC history of anybody that got at least 10 fights in the UFC.
Yeah,
Jumagalov has the second worst in UFC history of anybody that got at least 5 fights in the UFC. Elvis Sinisic went 1-6.
Yeah, you mean the former title challenger Elvis Sinisic?
Yeah.
I remember when he was going against Forrest Griffin, and they made it sound like he was like, "Oh, we're getting the tough fighters getting there." Because remember, coming from tough when they first arrived, they were shit.
Michael Bisping, they had him fight Michael Bisping in England.
I thought it was Forrest Griffin he fought.
No, it was Bisping in England.
Oh, it was Biz. Oh, sorry, it was Bisping.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I'm sorry. Who did Forrest Griffin fight in his debut? It wasn't Tito. It was somebody.
It was another Australian, or no, it was a Canadian. It was Bill Mahud.
Oh, Bill
the Butcher.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry. I was mixing up Forrest Griffin and Michael Bisping. Yeah.
Real quick, Tiffany, thanks for dropping by. We did touch the James Krause situation. We basically talked about it where we would have been talking about the Miles Johns versus Vincent Morales fight, because that fight was dog shit, and James Krause not being there was the most interesting thing about it. So we talked about it for like 15 minutes there.
Yeah. 1 foot out the door, I kind of mentioned Chase Sherman. I think he was referring to Chase Sherman gets a lot of late notices coming in the last minute, and that's kind of why he gets saved a lot. But I'm not saving him, but Ben did. Another one that was on my list, Fernie Garcia. The guy's 0-2 in the UFC. He just looked bad in every fight. I was cutting him, but Ben did not cut him. So Fernie survived.
It says a lot that almost everybody on this card who lost was on one of our cut lists or the other.
Yeah.
Like the only ones that weren't were Fialho, Moroz, and Morales.
Yeah. And shout out to Tiffany. She's fantastic. Yeah, guys, hit like. We don't do that. We don't beg people to do that stuff, but it would help us if you guys like and share and do all that fun stuff for us.
It's the Uncle Dana 50 Gs of like podcasters.
Yeah.
It's beneath our dignity.
Yeah, I know. We're not getting paid though. We do get paid, but you know.
We do get paid, but we don't get paid more if you hit like.
Yeah,
it
get the likes up. And get the likes up. We can say, Mike, 50 G's, baby. Or Craig, 50 G's, baby. And the last one I had was Vince Morales, 4-6, back-to-back losses. Then you have this dog shit fight against Miles Johns. I was cutting him.
Yeah,
I thought for sure he was on your list, but Ben.
It's he's not going to get cut when they're talking about the UFC announcing table is talking about seeing him at the cafeteria all the time, like at the Apex and the PI.
Just hang out there and become friends.
Yeah,
they want to cut you. No, he might be working in the cafeteria soon.
Oh, shit.
All right, let's do the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears is a stock market reference. If a stock is going good, or the market really is going good, it's a bull market. If it's going bad, it's a bear market. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1. Ben, we'll go positive. We'll go Bulls. Give me. I'll let you kick it off.
All right, for I mean, we'll get to the letter grade in a minute, but for what a historically bad card, there were some people who had good nights at the office. Jennifer Maia, anytime you're the underdog, whether it was a stupid line or not, and you get a clear-cut win, that's a stock up moment. Good for her. Waldo Cortez Acosta. It might have been ugly. It might have been the obligatory unranked heavyweight slobber knocker, but anytime you get 2 wins in 3 weeks in the UFC at any weight class over any level of fighter, that's a good thing. I mean, half of success in today's UFC is fighting often enough to stay in the mind of fans and of the UFC's own matchmakers. I mean, we talk about people every week that just don't fight enough to like be as big as their well hell, I mean, Muslim Salikov. We're like, you know, he's old and he fights once a year. It's been hard for him to get any momentum. Waldo Cortez Acosta does not have that problem. No. Number 1, I don't usually name the main event fighters, but Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Anytime that you get promoted from the co-main event to the main event in the middle of the card, that's a big moment. The event now has a different name. It is now UFC Fight Night Nzechukwu versus Cutelaba. When you do that and you pick up yet another win over a dangerous fighter, you know, even if he won Cutelaba, you once again weather adversity. You once again get a finish, and you look kind of mean while you're doing it. And then you give such a soft-spoken interview that the UFC like production truck can't turn the mic up enough for us to understand you. That is the most Kennedy Nzechukwu night ever, and a good night for him.
Yeah, like or that next time they fight, they're like, "Hey, pretend you don't speak English, and we'll just interpret it for you." Yeah. My number 3, Vanessa Demopoulos. She's won 3 fights in a row. She's on a roll, so her stock is
She's
rising.
She's on a pole.
Roll.
Oh, on a roll. Okay, no, yeah.
My number 2, Natalia Silva. Only 25 years old, now 2-0 in the UFC. Looked great in both fights. You know, she got a bonus tonight for a spinning, back kick to the face. She looked fantastic. And my number 1, I thought for sure this was going to be on your number 1. Big favorite, but when a big favorite does what he does, Jack Della Maddalena. We're talking about fighting contenders next. 3-0, 3 knockouts. People calling for ranked opponents, and he looks like he's probably going to get himself on that Perth card because he took no damage. So, which was what he was kind of hoping for. So, just a perfect night for him. Let's go over to the Bears. Now, these are the ones who did not have a good night. Ben, I'll let you go first again.
Okay, Andre Fialho. It's a rough look, man. I have a lot of faith in his upside, or at least his ability to bounce back even from this adversity. But unless we find out later, again, that he had like some sort of injury to his ribs, it's never a good look when you're expecting a firefight and one fighter just basically wilts mid-fight. And that's the only way you can describe it. He went from winning the first round pretty clearly to losing the second round pretty clearly to wanting out of the fight in the third round. So I'm hoping there's a medical reason for that. Otherwise, that's a tough thing to come back from. Jalga Shumagulov. I put him on my cut list. You didn't put him on yours. The one cut list that really matters is Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby's. There's a good chance he's on it. And for a guy that I still think isn't that bad a fighter, that's a rough look. Number 1, Chase Sherman, man. I think he might have gotten his last win in the UFC a few weeks back. But he'll always have that one to tell the grandkids about.
Yeah, I'll get to my Bears list. I'm going to go with the main eventer, Ian Cutelaba. The guy's 1-4-1 over his last 6 fights. And his last couple fights, Johnny Walker, this fight, he looked good early, found a way to lose. They kind of had the right matchups for him to kind of get back and get people excited. And he absolutely flopped, not looking good for Iwan Cutelaba. My number 2, I'm going to go with the UFC matchmakers. And there wasn't a fight. I mean, Madalena was the right task, but he was a big favorite. But there wasn't a fight like we talked about on the preview that was like out of whack. But like you can't build a card on one fight where like we don't have. Was there a single fighter ranked in the Sherdog rankings on the card? Oh, Jennifer Maia.
Yeah, no, Jennifer Maia. Yeah.
Anybody else?
No.
Like Nzechukwu is not ranked.
Nope, he's not.
Right? At least, and I kind of threw it out there really quick, but like that's my point. Like we weren't doing two matchmaking tonight. We weren't talking about. I didn't say, hey, how many phone calls until you get to this guy for a title shot?
Yeah.
I know you stacked. Like I understand the UFC matches stacked up last week's card. I understand that.
Sure.
But you could have. Come on, like do your best, Yanni. Sprinkle a little for us. Sprinkle something in there for us.
Sprinkle, just sprinkle.
Just a little sprinkle for us. And my number one he flew out to Vegas. Didn't even get to watch the card. James Krause, his stock is, I don't know what's going on, but James Krause stock fell tonight. Maybe not. Maybe his bankroll went up. I don't know. Let's get to. Do you have any dudes? I only have one. This is like my shortest dude. Seriously.
I don't know if I have any dude seriously. I mean, there were a lot of lousy performances, but not too many that appeared to be failings of fight IQ. Really.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go with it. I'm gonna go with Michael Bisping and we'll say, dude, seriously, when Miles Johns mentions that his coach couldn't come to the fight and you just completely ignored it. Like, dude, seriously. Listen, this is Joe Rogan's checked out. Like, he's not. But the one thing about Joe Rogan, he's in a position where he can kind of do what he wants. He's the only guy who mentioned Bellator. He's like, he can do whatever he wants. Like, what are they gonna do? Get rid of Joe Rogan? He's the most popular guy in the world. Yeah. You know, one of them. He would have addressed that. Like, he would have mentioned something. Like, come on, guys. Like, and conveniently, they announced the main event was out like 10 seconds after Miles John said that. Like, just by chance you're announcing it right now? Like, dude, seriously? Like, don't insult our intelligence. What's your grade of the card?
F. On paper, one of the worst cards in UFC history.
Wow.
And didn't deliver enough fireworks to, like, redeem that. This, like, I do this because it's my job. And generally speaking, for me, watching combat sports is kind of like sex. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's still pretty good. It's better than the alternative. But this one definitely stretched my patience. It just wasn't that good.
So this is like having sex with a fat chick. Is that what this was? Like, yeah, it's still too.
I come in all shapes and sizes.
Okay. Yeah. The action. If we were just grading the action, I'd go like a C. Like it was actually some pretty good moments.
Sure.
But yeah, losing the main event. I'm gonna go D because of the action was good. I won't go F because to me, like an F is nothing that makes me excited for the future and nothing that made me excited tonight. So I'll say D because at least the at least the card was pretty good. We had you want to read some of the people's grades out there? I'll flash them up on the screen if you want to read them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we got Mew saying F with the quickness. I don't know if they're laughing at me saying it so fast or agreeing with me. Kyle Lawheed gives it a D. Technical wealth, an F+. I like that because technically an F+ doesn't get you passing any better than a regular F, and so that's the perfect grade for technical wealth to give us.
Nice job.
Chris Wiz can't give it an F with that spinning kick knockout. I respect that. Technical wealth gives it an LOL also. Boss gives it a D for Dumont. So that is that's a D with a good low center of gravity.
She's a thick woman.
Yeah. Chris Wiz, again, a theme here. Madalena, TKO, and Silva's kick gives it a D for me. So people that acknowledge that the card was not great, but the highlights made it worth it. I'm Chase X asking.
Chris changed his card. He went D, now he's going F+, and who knows. JX asks, Juice X, I'm sorry, asks, what was worse, Bellator 288 or this UFC? Oof. I'll say this UFC, and I'll tell you why. The action of last night's Bellator was not good. One championship was a lot better. The comeback win by Christian Lee was, that was fun and everything. Bellator gave you something to talk about. You could make an argument, and both of me or you and me are in this camp, and it's something that we've already started chatting in the UFC, the Sherdog rankings. Could Nemkov be the number one light heavyweight in the world.
Yeah.
Regardless how you feel, like whatever your opinion is, you can at least acknowledge that there's an argument.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think it gave me something to talk about. Another Nurmagomedov being undefeated and winning a title, like this thing's to talk about. This card is the biggest thing to talk about. Didn't happen in the UFC. I mean, it happened outside of the actual action, the James Krause situation.
Yeah.
So I'll say the Bellator was better. What do you agree or disagree?
I would agree. I mean, I didn't watch all of the Bellator. I mean, look behind the curtain. Sherdog is my full-time job. Thursday and Friday are my days off. So typically, if there's a card on a Friday, I'll like cram it, once I'm on the clock Saturday or Sunday. But there was more divisional relevance. It's not often that Bellator has the highest divisional relevance, of the weekend for the card. And the one championship doubleheader, I mean, had about the same level as this UFC card. If Rainer de Ritter had been on the card, like one would have been ahead of the UFC. We have Rainer de Ritter ranked at light heavyweight.
Yeah. The Christian Lee moment was fun. So that to me, that I actually thought one the weekend.
Plus Rod Tang. Like anytime you got Rod Tang like kicking people in the face, that's appointment viewing. So yeah.
There you go. Somebody asked did I ever give it an F. I'm sorry who said that. Someone asked if I ever asked if I ever gave a card an F. I don't think I've ever given a card an F.
I don't think so.
I'm a nice person. That's the difference between me and Ben. Like I'm a really nice person. And
I'm a jerk.
Ben's a little bit of a dick. I don't know if you guys got that. All right. Toughest question as always. Who is the listener of the card? To me, this one's actually an easier one. I'm going to keep his name right up there. Or she, I apologize. Miyu came in with fire right from the very start.
Came in with fire. Stood on several hills and like fought and died on those hills as like the main dissenting voice. I'm here for it. I enjoyed first time I think I've seen one foot out the door on this chat. Welcome. Definitely get a Rookie of the Year award there. And of course, all the love to our contingent of Charter Hall of Fame members. Like it would be almost unfair to give Technical Wealth or Boss,
Kyle
or Chris Wiz
that's not even a lister anymore.
No, dude, Dev is doing the PFL finals pod like preview with me tomorrow.
Yeah, Dev's stealing my job.
I gave you right of first refusal on those PFL finals. You didn't want to talk about Aspen Ladd versus Julia Budd, I guess.
Oh yeah, no. I just honestly, I was planning on doing it. And I had a crazy week, and I wasn't gonna get to it. And I try not to do shit. Like I try to give. At least I try. I can't say I always do it, but if I'm gonna do a shit preview, I don't. So, anyways, when does that come out, Ben?
It will be up first thing Monday morning.
There you go, guys. So make sure you check that out. So on a bye week for the UFC, we are doing the preview for PFL Championship with Ben Duffy and the great Dev Goes Fishing making his preview debut. Other than that, we have a week off from the UFC, so we will not be doing a recap show for UFC next week. In the meantime, Thanksgiving in America is coming up. So if you're American, I know I can say for both me, Ben, and everybody at Sherdog, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with family, friends, all that good stuff. The only thing that don't take pictures of your plate and post it on social media. That's just stupid. Don't do that. Other than that, enjoy the holidays. Ben, say something as we go out.
Hey, bye guys. Have a great day.
See you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. It's early.